Hi everyone, this is my presentation of the Pearse Museum located in the southside suburb of Rathfarnham. It's currently managed by the Office of Public Works and mostly a photographic and documentary collection. The museum is dedicated to the brothers William and Patrick Pearse, and Patrick was obviously a 1916 revolutionary and probably one of the most important men of the 20th century. Photo on the right is from inside the foyer, a beautiful painting by Owen McLaughlin that combines his portrait with the landscape of Rossmuck and Connemara. And on the left is from inside, and it's a collage of artistic and literary devotion to him as a figure over time. On the bottom right, that's the museum's foyer painting projected onto Pearse's home in Rossmuck that was visited as a summer retreat. To me, this projection is really symbolic of Pearse's vision. Although he was an absolute romanticist, he definitely saw the Irish landscape as inextricably linked to Ireland's artistic, political and cultural heritage during the revival period of the 20th century. So Pearse's consecutive summers here and his immersion in the Irish language actually inspired him to set up his own Irish language school in Dublin. Thus, it would have been preferable, in my opinion, to emphasise in the museum how important Irish was to Pearse, and explain how Irish, which is now an endangered language, and language in general, can act as a vehicle for change. In the museum, they dedicated some large photographs to Pearse's Irish vernacular house, and also some images from Connemara of turf collecting and traditional basketry. Both basketry and traditional thatching are a part of Ireland's tangible and intangible heritage, so I felt these could have been represented better both visually and in word. Current thought on best museum best practice includes a sensory as well as a tactile element. A suggestion I have may be a space to display some rushes or thatch or even a small segment of basketry or coppice hazel. So to go over built and architectural heritage, here we have the main building itself known as the Hermitage. This would have been the original entrance for the boys, and every time I've stood in front of this, I've been pretty breathtaking. It really is colossus in stature. First built in the 18th century and owned by dentist Henry Hudson. Going by my own research, as well as UNESCO's criteria of physical sites with outstanding value, this building is unique and certainly has aesthetic, historic and ethnological value. It's 3 stories high and constructed from massive blocks of clean-cut ashlar granite. The guide believed the granite was quarried locally, and the facade certainly is comparable to buildings like the Custom House on the Quays, which was built also of ashlar granite. Here's a side-on view showing the Hermitage on the left, the modern interpretive centre or museum in the middle, and the 20th century extension on the right-hand side. What's absolutely remarkable is that the original building, according to the guides, has had no leaks or cracks, while the modern building is needing constant maintenance, and even the 20th century facade is weathered. The resident guide, Elma, actually joked about the Hermitage's intangibility, meaning, that nothing has budged or interacted with it in the past three centuries. So, in terms of intangible heritage, I would say the building, like other Irish antique granite structures, is a testament to both human achievement and exquisite craftsmanship, and there's some unique stone features present, like on the bottom left. I would also say the building and its gorgeous axial entrance court have had and continue to have social importance. The front of the building was home to festive events including the centenary and bicentenary celebrations. So in terms of intangible heritage, certainly social cohesion and even aspects of ritual. We even see individual and group commemoration in front of the steps. Here's a photo of Pearse's battalion, the dogs on the top right, posing in front of the steps, recreating their Easter 1916 week photo. And this group were really involved with the school, and that's my great-granddad on the top left in both photos. So in terms of intangible heritage, certainly commemoration. And in terms of how the museum represent this, I feel there is a void relaying the significance of the building. Only thing out front was a bust of Patrick Pearse, and I feel improvements could be made with a standing placard similar to the Brian Brew walking exhibition at Clontarf. A quote from Pearse that really highlights the symbolic importance of the grounds and the hermitage itself. He writes, St. Enda's has the highest aim in education of any school in Ireland. It must have the worthiest home. And a great quote from Frank O'Kane is, these gardens, through their use of historic symbols and mythologies, create a history to connect the owners to their environment. So to go over some more pieces of tangible heritage from the museum, we have two great examples of the harp from the museum. One is a small plaster cast with the accompanying woman. The other is a beautiful full-sized harp in the upstairs hall. The first plaster piece really does take center stage in the room and is very well presented with good illumination. Beautiful details like the gracious folds in her clothes. So in terms of intangible heritage, I think this piece relates most to cultural identity. I say this since the portrayal of a beautiful woman accompanied by a harp is a really powerful image during the formation of Irish national identity. Women were usually perceived as representing the country's sovereignty during British colonial rule in Ireland. And during the pivotal Gaelic revival period, displaying the two side by side actually became synonymous with distinguishing the island of Ireland from Britain. In the museum, they titled this piece Éireann go Bragh, but gave no translation. And for tourists not familiar with Irish history, I think it would be good to explain that this was a common political phrase and generally meant Ireland forever. I would also explain the root of the word Éireann from Irish myth and show a full picture of the life-size sculpture the miniature is based on here in College Green. So about the harp upstairs. Disappointed that there was little to no information about the harp on display, other than it was played by students for an extra annual fee of £1. Thankfully, the guide gave us permission to look closer, and I found out from inspecting two small metal panels that it's a rare harp called the Tara harp and was built by James McFall. And James was partially responsible for reviving a near extinct tradition and further refining the style itself. So in terms of intangible heritage, James McFall is drawing on a clear Gaelic artistic aesthetic here, fusing Irishness into the instrument designs themselves. And I included UNESCO's quote because by looking at the detail on the harp, he is incorporating traditional early medieval designs like the Trinity from Clonmacnoise Crozier, zoomorphic knotwork from Tara, into a more contemporary instrument. And even in modern times, this style continues to be used. So performance is really a central tenet of the harp tradition today, and this performative aspect of the instrument was stressed in the Irish Harping nomination in 2019. The practice sees group lessons, ensembles, international circuits, and often communities coming together. And Pearse's school has been home to past performances, and it's also hosting another show on the 17th of December, which the guides invited me to, which is very nice. And just to wrap up, as I'm at the word count now, I really enjoyed the exhibition. I do feel it could be improved by adding some extra historical context here and there. The physical or tangible traces of his approach to Pearse's education are countless. Uniforms, projectors, heroic posters, paintings, antiquarian books, photos, and even though his school closed close to a century ago, his legacy continues to provide an intangible link from our past through to the present. And in my opinion, this linking of the past to the present fosters a sense of collective identity, continuity, and even community. And here is a 1966 coin of Pearse and Cuchulainn, and on the right those are posters at Pearse's school itself and a motto. In 1912 on the right hand side that's Pearse's schoolboys wearing uniform, and in 2022 that's actually a legacy pipe band taking inspiration of the uniform from the school itself. And on the top right hand side that's a play from Pearse's school, and just adjacent to that to the left that's actually a 2016 centenary celebration where young school kids went out and reenacted Pearse's plays. So that's the end of the presentation. I'm just going to keep the video running to go through all the sources and references I used to put together the presentation. So those are the final references, including a few documents from UNESCO. And thanks very much for giving me your time. I really appreciate it, and happy holidays.